Hi honey pies, I think this is going to be my last video for today, but because it's been so long since I've done anything on YouTube, I kind of feel like there's a few things I want to talk about. This final video is about the meaning of interfaith dialogue, and this comes from a video that was posted by the Shoe Whisperer a few days ago, which was for her Christian viewers. And it really got me thinking, a lot of the comments got me thinking about what I actually think interfaith dialogue is, and what I feel crosses the line into disrespect, or conversion attempts, or things that masquerade as interfaith dialogue but actually are so far from it that, you know, they're actually not interfaith dialogue whatsoever. Mandy C's view is that, and I'm not going to make this into a video response because I'm going to go way off track. I've got other things, my own kind of ideas that I want to talk about, so it's not essentially a response. But her idea is that the Christian viewers that she has who come to her page and write comments under her videos, sort of quoting Bible passages or telling people that they need to convert to Christianity, are entirely welcome to do so, and that she doesn't see anything offensive in that, she is not opposed to that whatsoever, and that it's fine for them to do that. She also stated that she was disappointed by pagans and witches who gave out quite aggressive responses to these Christians who were quoting these Bible passages and things like that. They had a bit of a negative response to it in some cases, and she was disappointed by that because she feels that, you know, interfaith dialogue and discussions that come from different areas of the spiritual spectrum are completely legitimate. And a lot of people were in agreement with this and said, you know, that they were completely open to interfaith dialogue, and there was a lot of discussion underneath the video which was very interesting to read. My view is basically this. I really enjoy speaking to people from other faiths, and I think it's something that's always really interested me. I'm fascinated by every single way that somebody feels they can get to Godhead, every single way that somebody feels they can vibe with divinity is a way that I'm interested in exploring and learning about. I am fascinated by religion and spirituality. Theology is a huge passion of mine, and I think I will be reading about it and learning about different aspects of it for the rest of my time on Earth. But I do feel that interfaith dialogue is something quite specific, and I think we need to narrow down what it really is. I think for my own peace of mind, I would like to talk a little bit about what I think interfaith dialogue is. I think that interfaith dialogue is essentially cooperative and constructive discussion between people of different faiths in an effort to promote understanding. That's really what it is. And I think that there are certain things that Christians post underneath videos that I do not feel enter into the definition of interfaith dialogue. When I first started my YouTube channel, I had a little bit of an and an ah, as we say in Britain. I was umming and ahhing about whether or not I was going to actually delete comments that I found to be offensive or irrelevant, or, you know, didn't really sort of align themselves with what I was saying in my videos, because I know that after you've been on YouTube for a while, that kind of thing does come up. And I don't know whether or not I've gotten many negative comments, because I don't really look back over the comments of my older videos, and I've made over 100 now. But I was going back over some of my tarot videos a while ago, and somebody had posted a comment and it just said tarot is bullshit. Completely reductive comment, absolutely no point to it whatsoever. And I deleted it on the basis that it was intended to be offensive and it was intended to be reductive. There was no conversation behind it, there was no point of view behind it. It wasn't as if the person had said tarot is bullshit because, and then explained the premise of their argument. It was, in fact, just intended to be offensive and reductive, so I deleted it on that basis. Because I don't want that kind of crap under my videos. I think if somebody is in disagreement with me, and if somebody would like to debate with me, then that's all fine and dandy, and that's something that I'll always be prepared to do. I never shy away from a good debate. I think that's something that someone could say was true of me from the moment I could speak, that I was very comfortable with debate, and I don't consider a debate to be the same thing as an argument. And if I do feel myself getting overheated in a debate, I will check myself. I won't attack the other person. I will think, okay, you are emotive here, you're obviously emotionally invested to the point where you can't kind of keep a level head or whatever, so this is your problem and you need to deal with it. So I will kind of back away from a debate or apologise if I feel that I can't continue because I might overstep my own mark, kind of thing, and it ceases to become intellectual at that point. It starts to become personal, and that's not what a debate is about. So I feel that I have a very healthy attitude towards debate, but I feel that if somebody is just being intentionally offensive by saying the word bullshit, and then intentionally or unintentionally reductive by not actually backing up their statement with any point of view or perspective, I don't see why I ought to entertain that on my channel, so I choose not to. So I think anything irrelevant or anything intentionally offensive, from my point of view, will be deleted. Whether or not one thinks that quoting a Bible passage underneath somebody's video about witchcraft or paganism is offensive or not is obviously a point of view. It's about perspective. From my point, I believe that Bible bombing somebody is actually, it is reductive, and I think it is in a sense offensive as well. For the first part, if somebody was to quote a Bible passage underneath one of my videos about spirituality or witchcraft or paganism, there's no idea there coming from them that they've actually watched my video. I have no idea whether or not they've actually watched the video because they haven't actually stated anything that's relevant to the content I placed in the video. It's a Bible passage, so for all I know, they have started searching videos about witchcraft and paganism, come across my video and Bible bombed it, as I like to say. And that to me is offensive on the basis that they actually potentially haven't listened to my point of view before posting. The second thing that I think I find offensive about things like that is that the Bible passages are actually not really explained very clearly. So if somebody is trying to make a specific point by quoting a specific passage from the Bible in relation to something I've written in my video, then they need to explain what it means. I've dipped in and out of the Bible over the years, and I have some understanding of biblical passages and biblical language. But some of the things that I see being quoted are things that I really don't understand. They're talking about the book of the Lamb or the blood of the Lamb, and certain things that happened somewhere in the Bible, and so said to so and so on the mount on high that this and that will happen on the seventh day, and it's kind of like, that to me is riddles, of course, because I am not Christian and I don't have a good working knowledge of the Bible per se. I own a Bible. But I actually don't think the Bible is as beautifully written as, say, the Greek myths by Robert Graves, for example. I don't find it poetic, per se. Aside from the Psalms are actually some of the best poetry I've ever read in my life. The Psalm of David is absolutely stunning. It's probably my favourite thing that I've read in the English language, but I don't actually have a decent working knowledge of the Bible. So if somebody is trying to be very relevant in terms of what I've posted in my content, and they would like to use a Bible passage to respond to what I've said, then they really need to break it down for me, because otherwise it's just riddles, and it's not something that's ever going to engage my attention anyway, of course, because I don't really understand what they're trying to say to me. And the third reason that I think I find it offensive is because essentially it's a conversion attempt. Now, my idea of interfaith dialogue is that each of the faiths is respected, and you see that image that goes around on the internet that says all true spiritual paths meet in the middle. I believe that. I believe that there needs to be a certain degree of respect given to the fact that all people who are following any kind of spiritual path or religious teaching are attempting to align themselves with Godhead, or to understand God, or to serve God, whatever it is. So I think there needs to be that basic understanding in order for anything approaching interfaith dialogue to take place, and I don't think that respectful interfaith dialogue should ever include conversion attempts. I think that a lot of the problems that witches and pagans have on YouTube with Christians responding with Bible passages, or with things like, you need to turn to Christ, he'll save your soul, he'll forgive you for your sins, this is assuming a massive amount of spiritual superiority. This to me is basically somebody telling me that I am sinning by doing what I'm doing, and if that is their opinion and if that's their perspective, they are completely entitled to it. But what they are not entitled to do is to use my channel to put forth their own agenda, which I feel is actually quite aggressive and reductive, instead of appreciating that I myself also believe in divinity, and I myself also have very deep spiritual feelings and spiritual leanings. Instead, they are actually dismissing my pathway in favour of their own, and they are taking this kind of role upon themselves to evangelise in order to save my soul, which is basically like them saying that my soul does need to be saved, which I actually find offensive. I think it's fine what you think, say and do in your own household or on your own time, but I don't want to be used to fulfill somebody else's idea of what it takes for them to be closer to God. What I mean by that is, you know, a lot of Christians feel that part of their duty as a lover of Christ is to evangelise and proselytise and get people to come their way. But actually, I feel that I'm just being used in the grander scheme of things so that they can serve their God or their idea of God. And I don't want to be used in that way. I find that manipulative. And as I said, I think it adopts a huge measure of spiritual superiority. It's basically like somebody saying, my spirituality is right and your spirituality is wrong. And although it may be done out of love, which was a huge part of Mandy C's argument and a huge part of the argument of people in the comments, I don't mean argument in an aggressive way, I just mean when they were discussing it, there was a lot of talk about how Christians only do this out of love, they do this out of compassion, and they think that it's the right thing for them to do, and they're not doing it to be malicious, they're doing it because they genuinely believe that we are hellbound, and they're trying to help us to get into the pearly gates. And although I appreciate that it's done out of love, I think they also need to appreciate how it looks and how it feels, and the emotional implications of doing that to somebody who is genuinely trying to put forth their ideas about spirituality. I personally would never ever in a million years dream of trying to seek out videos that have been made by people of other faiths and trying to pull them towards paganism or pantheism or witchcraft. It would never happen. Paganism is of course 100% non-dogmatic, which is why I think so many pagans have a huge issue with Bible bombing and conversion attempts, because they simply don't understand it. For us, spirituality is deeply personal, and it's not something that you would ever believe would be better served or better conducted by trying to get other people onto the same gravy train as you. It just doesn't happen that way. So I guess that's why there's a big misunderstanding there. But I do think there's obviously a misunderstanding from Christians that do this kind of thing, that I and people like me are simply going to accept that yes, it's done out of love and you're perfectly welcome to do that. I suppose what I'm saying is my message for my Christian viewers is that you are not welcome to do that. You are not welcome to disregard what I've put forth in my content and instead just respond with Bible passages or tell me that my soul can be saved by converting to Christ. You're not welcome to do that, because for me that is not true interfaith dialogue. That is not cooperative and constructive discussion in order to promote understanding, which is my definition of interfaith dialogue. I don't think that anything reductive, and I don't think that anything that comes from a morally superior perspective can actually be called interfaith dialogue, really. So I suppose that's what I wanted to say about conversion attempts. I find them disrespectful largely, and I think out of love does not necessarily mean productive, and out of love does not necessarily mean dialogue. I saw a comment underneath the video from one Christian who said to another Christian that he or she found YouTube to be a great way to spread the gospel and to get people hearing Christ's word. Again, I'm not a cog in their machine, and I don't wish to be. You know, I don't wish to serve their agenda. I don't wish to be used in order for them to serve their agenda. What's going on between them and their God is their own affair. On this channel, I talk about what's going on with me and mine, and I expect for that to be respected. You know, there can be no true interfaith dialogue without true respect of the other person's position and the other person's feelings, and conversion attempts don't enter into that at all. They are basically just people shouting over each other. And I just don't vibe with that very well. So I do find it reductive, and I do find it in a sense offensive, and I do also see the other point of view that it probably largely is done out of love. But that is not the way I feel that true love should seriously operate. I think that trying to dismiss somebody's views, change somebody's views, dismiss somebody's God by Bible bombing or shouting over somebody or saying, you know, you're hellbound, I think that actually comes from a place of trying to spread fear. And I don't think that's very loving. I don't think that's very loving. My stepfather was a man who liked to spread fear, and I definitely have no love for him. I didn't then and I don't now. I don't like people who try to spread fear. I don't like people who try to shout over. I don't really understand it. And as I said, in their personal view, in their mind, they're completely welcome to think whatever they want. I'm not the thought police, okay? This isn't some Orwellian nightmare that I'm putting out. I just literally believe that interfaith dialogue is something different, and I think we do the term interfaith dialogue a huge disservice by grouping in conversion attempts with it. A conversion attempt is not interfaith dialogue, not at all. It's not. It's how can I even put it? It's an attempt to cajole somebody into your way of thinking so that you can further serve an agenda that you already know the other person doesn't believe in or serve themselves. That's not coming from a place of respect, so it's definitely not welcome on my channel. I'll give you an example of what I think interfaith dialogue is. I have a friend who is a Muslim sheikh. He travels across the UK. He also does some travelling in America. He owns his own business. He's a very rich man, but he's also a very spiritually centred man, and he prays to Allah 5 times a day, and he is a dedicated Muslim. He has a dedicated Muslim wife. He speaks Arabic, and he's British, but he speaks Arabic, so he can read the Quran in its language of origin. I started working for him a few years ago, and I started having some discussions with him. We actually bonded over a love of the Persian poets from the 1300s, so Rumi, Hafiz, that kind of thing. We could both kind of quote Rumi at length and loved reading him. We both found, and still find now, that Rumi gives us a sense of the divine. That kind of poetry moves me closer to divinity all the time. It helps me, in a sense, to worship the divinity in me and in everything else. And he also loves reading Rumi. It brings him closer to Allah. So we bonded over that kind of love of poetry, and we had a few discussions about faith. And I told him that sometimes I found it very difficult to reconcile my faith and my strong spiritual leanings with the material realm, with the need to make money, for example, to have a career, to go out to work every day. I said that I felt disconnected from spirituality when I was doing that kind of thing, and when I was in that kind of mode. I felt like it was almost a persona split, and I had difficulty with that. And he suggested to me a few things that he felt about his own spirituality and his relationship with owning a business. He discussed with me things that he discusses with his followers and with the people that he guides and helps. He talked to me about how to fuse that persona and how to add spirituality and spiritual flavouring to every aspect of life. He was talking to me as a Muslim and knowing that I myself am a pagan. We were talking about the fact that we both have strong spiritual leanings and the fact that we both need to survive and deal with the material realm and aspects of life which we don't feel have much spirituality in them per se. That is interfaith dialogue in a nutshell. That is what it is. It is two people with a fundamental level of foundation respect for the fact that each other both believe in divinity, in Godhead, and all that kind of thing. But there is no attempt to even delve into ideas of conversion or ideas of superiority, one spiritual leaning over another. That didn't enter into the equation. He was helping me as one spiritualist to another. And he was using examples from his Muslim upbringing and from his Muslim experiences to help me, a pagan, to deal with exactly the same issues as he deals with, but just in a slightly different context. Dressed up in a slightly different guise, but essentially the same issues. That to me is interfaith dialogue. I also feel that a lot of the time when interfaith dialogue is forced upon us in some way, then it ceases to have that level of respect that I'm talking about that it really needs to have. I think, for example, I've visited mosques quite a lot. I've spent a lot of my time, a lot of my upbringing in East London, and I've been to the mosque on Whitechapel Road several times for their open days. They explain lots of different things to you. They have lots of different boards up to tell you about different things. They let you into the main mosque area, and they just explain how everything works and how to go in the direction of Mecca to pray and that kind of thing. So you're actually you're opening your mind to the idea of really absorbing aspects of another spiritual pathway. You're actually going to it with an open heart and an open mind. You're not suggesting that you wish to be converted. You are merely suggesting that you are open to the idea that people reach divinity in different ways. People connect with it in different ways. And I got so much out of those open days. I also regularly visit churches when I go to Europe. I have visited synagogues. I'm fascinated by the way other people get what I feel I get from my spiritual pursuits. So I think that interfaith dialogue is often something that you invite. If you are closed off to the idea and you do not invite it, and somebody tries to foist it upon you by using techniques that I personally feel are disrespectful, then again, if it doesn't begin with respect, and if it doesn't begin with mutual openness and mutual willingness to understand, it's not interfaith dialogue, it's interfaith monologue. And that, to me, doesn't make a great deal of sense. That's not what I'm after. I also think that a big part of the importance of interfaith dialogue is to take it completely away from ideas of conversion and to instead put that energy of interfaith dialogue and interfaith respect into the idea of defending each other's spiritualities, defending each other's rights to religious openness and to religious practice. A few years ago, I believe it was after 9/11, somebody started an arson attack on that Whitechapel mosque, which I'd visited several times. I was disgusted by this and I was devastated by it. I found it terrible. And I think, you know, when we defend each other's spiritualities, despite the fact that they're different, when we defend each other's right to think of God in the terms that we wish to think of God, that's where you get the energy, the positive, productive energy that really comes from interfaith dialogue. We're not trying to tear each other's beliefs down. We're standing firm in the understanding that we all have God at our centre, that we just choose to go about it and practice it in different ways. For me, interfaith dialogue should be moving more towards that side of the spectrum, where Christians are willing to defend my paganism and I'm willing to defend their Christianity. I do not want Christians to convert me, I want Christians to congratulate me. That is where I feel the crux of interfaith dialogue really is, where we let go and we accept each other. We accept each other's ideas of God. And that's really all I wanted to say about interfaith dialogue. I feel that interfaith dialogue is a term that is actually very simple, but I think we need to define what is and is not respectful dialogue, what is and is not productive. So yeah, I don't welcome conversion attempts, and I don't welcome riddle me this responses, and I don't welcome anything reductive, and I don't welcome anything offensive. And I think offensive is really just a point of view. And as far as I'm concerned, if I don't feel that my views have been listened to, and if I don't feel that somebody wants to engage with me in a way that truly is productive and is respectful and allows me my paganism as much as I allow others their Christianity, then I don't feel that interfaith dialogue is really what we're dealing with here. So that's my view. Thank you for listening.